the Bible is filled with powerful women, some known for their faith, wisdom, and strength. But there are others whose actions cast a shadow over history, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. One such woman stands out above all, a queen whose ambition and cruelty shook an entire nation to its core. Jezebel. This is the story of 5 women whose name has become synonymous with evil and deceit. From manipulating kings to killing prophets, many other vile acts you could think of. Stay with me as we delve into this Bible story. Don't forget to turn on your notification bell on Bible Tales TV, subscribe, like and comment. Jezebel. Jezebel's wickedness knew no bounds. But who was she, really? And how did she become one of the most dangerous women in the Bible? Jezebel was a Phoenician princess, the daughter of King Ethbal of Sidon, a powerful king who led a city-state known for its worship of Baal, the pagan god of fertility and rain. In a political alliance, Jezebel was married off to King Ahab of Israel, who was the ruler of the northern kingdom of Israel during the 9th century BCE. Ahab, described in the Bible as a weak and indecisive king, was quickly overshadowed by his wife's ruthless and calculating nature. From the moment Jezebel became queen, she sought to steer Israel away from worshipping the God of Israel, Yahweh, and toward the false god, Baal. Her influence over Ahab was immense, and together, they led Israel down a path of idolatry and moral decay. Jezebel wasn't just a queen in name, she was the driving force behind many of Israel's most significant moral and spiritual failures. Jezebel's most significant and dangerous action was her promotion of idol worship. She was deeply devoted to Baal, and her goal was to establish Baal worship as the state religion of Israel. To do so, she introduced hundreds of prophets of Baal into the land and built temples to Baal in the capital city of Samaria. She even went as far as to construct an altar to Baal in the temple dedicated to him. But her pursuit of idol worship didn't stop with just building temples. Jezebel used her power to systematically eliminate the prophets of Yahweh. She ordered the killing of many of Israel's prophets and sought to stamp out all opposition to Baal worship. It was in this environment that Elijah, the prophet of God, emerged as her greatest adversary. The most dramatic showdown between Jezebel and the prophet Elijah occurred on Mount Carmel, where Elijah challenged the prophets of Baal to a public contest to see whose God was truly powerful. Elijah, standing alone against 450 prophets of Baal, called upon Yahweh to send fire from heaven and consume the offering prepared on the altar. When Yahweh answered by sending down fire, consuming the offering, the altar, and even the water surrounding it, the people of Israel were left in awe. In contrast, the prophets of Baal had failed miserably. They had danced, shouted, and even mutilated themselves in an attempt to get Baal to respond, but there was no answer. This powerful demonstration of Yahweh's supremacy over Baal was a devastating blow to Jezebel's cause. However, Jezebel wasn't one to back down. Furious and humiliated, she vowed to kill Elijah. Despite the overwhelming proof of Yahweh's power, Jezebel's rage led her to relentlessly pursue Elijah, forcing him to flee for his life. Jezebel's cruelty wasn't just reserved for prophets. One of the most infamous incidents of her evil acts was her role in the murder of Naboth, a man who owned a vineyard near the palace of King Ahab. Ahab desired Naboth's vineyard, but Naboth refused to sell it, as it was an inheritance from his ancestors. This refusal enraged Ahab, who went home sulking. Jezebel, seeing an opportunity to increase her power and satisfy her husband, devised a sinister plan. She forged letters in Ahab's name, accusing Naboth of blasphemy and treason. She ordered that Naboth be stoned to death. With Naboth out of the picture, Jezebel was able to secure the vineyard for her husband. This act of injustice was a direct example of Jezebel's ruthless nature. She manipulated the king to get what she wanted, showing just how dangerous her cunning could be. Despite her power and manipulation, Jezebel's reign was not destined to last forever. God, having witnessed her many crimes, prophesied her demise through Elijah. She would not die peacefully, rather, she would be thrown down from her palace window, her body trampled by horses, and her remains devoured by dogs. In a final act of judgment, Jezebel's death fulfilled the prophecy and signified the ultimate defeat of her evil reign. In the end, Jezebel's death was a bitter reminder that even the most powerful and wicked rulers cannot escape God's justice. Her legacy remains a warning to all who seek to use power for evil, showing that no matter how clever or influential one may be, there are consequences for forsaking righteousness. Delilah. When it comes to betrayal, few stories in the Bible are as tragic and heart-wrenching as the tale of Delilah and Samson. Delilah, a woman whose beauty and charm concealed a treacherous heart, played a pivotal role in the downfall of one of Israel's greatest heroes. But who was Delilah, and how did she manipulate the mightiest men of his time? Her story is one of deceit, power, and love turned deadly, leaving a mark of betrayal that echoes throughout biblical history. Delilah's story unfolds in the book of Judges, where she is introduced as a woman from the valley of Sorek, with whom Samson, the powerful Nazirite, falls deeply in love. Samson, known for his supernatural strength that allowed him to perform feats like slaying a lion with his bare hands and defeating entire armies, was Israel's greatest judge. His power, however, was tied to a divine covenant. As long as he followed his Nazirite vow, which included never cutting his hair, his strength remained unshakable. However, Delilah's arrival in Samson's life marked the beginning of his eventual downfall. The Philistines, Israel's longtime enemies, had long sought a way to subdue Samson and strip him of his power. When they discovered that Samson had become infatuated with Delilah, they saw an opportunity. They approached her with a proposal. If she could uncover the secret to Samson's incredible strength, they would reward her with a large sum of silver. For Delilah, this was an offer too tempting to refuse. The promise of wealth, power, and an end to the constant threat Samson posed to the Philistine rulers was too alluring. Delilah, outwardly sweet and loving, began to ask Samson, repeatedly and innocently, "Where does your great strength come from? What is the secret to your power?" At first, Samson, perhaps underestimating her or blinded by love, gave her false answers, testing her intentions. He told her that if he were bound with 7 fresh bowstrings, he would lose his strength. Delilah, eager to please, relayed this information to the Philistines, who quickly brought her the bowstrings. She then bound Samson with them while he was asleep, only to have him break free effortlessly when the Philistines arrived. After this, Delilah pressed him again, feigning concern, "You've mocked me and lied to me. Tell me the truth." Samson, frustrated but still unsure of her true intentions, told her another lie, saying that if he were bound with new ropes, his strength would fail him. Delilah again tried the trick, only to have Samson break free once more. Delilah, however, was not easily deterred. Her manipulation became more emotional, turning the situation into a psychological battle. "How can you say you love me when you keep hiding the truth from me?" she lamented. She began to wear down Samson's resolve, constantly pressing him for answers. She understood that to break him, she needed to attack his heart, not just his strength. She wept, and with every tear, her words stung deeper. She accused him of mocking her love and misleading her, using emotional manipulation to erode his defenses. It wasn't just the physical threat of betrayal that wore Samson down, it was the emotional toll of seeing the woman he loved in distress, a distress that she had created. Finally, after days of persistent pleading and emotional manipulation, Samson gave in. Exhausted and emotionally drained, he revealed the truth: "No razor has ever touched my head, because I have been a Nazirite set apart to God since birth. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man." Samson, in his vulnerability, trusted Delilah with his deepest secret, the secret that was the source of his immense power. Delilah, overjoyed by her success, immediately sent for the Philistine rulers, who rushed to her with their reward in hand. That night, as Samson slept in her lap, Delilah called for a servant to shave his head. As his hair fell to the floor, the strength that had once made him invincible faded away. When the Philistines arrived, Delilah cried out, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." Samson, waking up, thought he could escape as he had before, but this time, he found that his strength had left him. In his weakened state, he was captured, blinded, and bound in shackles, a tragic end to his once glorious life. Delilah's betrayal was complete. She had used her charm and manipulation to strip Samson of his strength, leading him to ruin. While her reward of silver from the Philistines came, it came at the cost of a life, a hero, and the tragic fall of a man who had once been invincible. In the end, Delilah's role as one of the most dangerous and evil women in the Bible is cemented not just by her actions but by the deep, deliberate betrayal she orchestrated. She used her love, her beauty, and her manipulation to deceive Samson, ultimately leading to his capture and fall. Her story is a reminder of how betrayal can come from the ones we trust the most, and the consequences of allowing our emotions to cloud our judgment. Delilah's betrayal echoes through the ages as one of the greatest acts of manipulation in the Bible, leaving Samson broken and blind, a man who lost everything because he trusted the wrong person. Athaliah. Athaliah's story is one of the most shocking and bloodthirsty tales in the Bible, marked by a ruthless thirst for power and an insatiable desire to secure her position as queen. The daughter of the infamous Jezebel and King Ahab of Israel, Athaliah was born into a royal family steeped in idolatry, deceit, and evil. She inherited her mother's cunning and cruelty, traits that would define her reign in Judah, a small kingdom that stood in stark contrast to the wickedness of her bloodline. Athaliah's rise to power was a direct result of her brutal actions after the death of her son, King Ahaziah of Judah. Ahaziah, who had followed in his grandparents' footsteps and promoted the worship of Baal, was killed in a battle with the forces of Israel. When news of his death reached Jerusalem, Athaliah saw an opportunity that would set her on a bloody path to securing her throne. She wasted no time in orchestrating a massacre. With her son dead, Athaliah's first action was to wipe out the entire royal family. She ordered the murder of her grandchildren, the rightful heirs to the throne, to eliminate any threat to her rule. In a brutal act of treachery, she had every male member of the royal family killed. However, one infant child, Joash, was secretly spared by his aunt Jehosheba, who hid him in the temple of God to protect him from Athaliah's murderous reign. For 6 long years, Joash remained in hiding, protected by those loyal to the true line of David. During this time, Athaliah ruled with an iron fist. She assumed the throne as queen and continued to push Judah further into idolatry, encouraging the worship of Baal, much like her parents had done in Israel. Athaliah's reign was marked by fear, violence, and oppression as she consolidated her power and ruthlessly eliminated anyone she saw as a threat to her control. Her bloody actions and unwavering thirst for power blinded her to the faithfulness of God, and her reign would ultimately be her undoing. But the story of Athaliah's downfall begins with a quiet rebellion, one that grew in strength over the years. Jehoiada, the high priest, kept Joash hidden and safe, nurturing the boy and raising him in secret with the intention of restoring the Davidic line to the throne. When Joash turned 7, Jehoiada decided it was time to reveal the young king and reclaim the throne from the usurper Athaliah. Jehoiada made a bold move, gathering the military leaders, priests, and Levites to rally around Joash. With the support of the people, Jehoiada orchestrated a public coronation ceremony in the temple, revealing Joash as the rightful king of Judah. Athaliah, who had ruled with unchecked power for 6 years, was furious when she heard the news. She immediately rushed to the temple to confront what she saw as a rebellion against her rule. But her fury quickly turned to despair when she realized that her reign was over. The people, who had grown weary of her oppressive rule, supported Joash, and the soldiers who had guarded the temple seized Athaliah. In a dramatic moment of judgment, Athaliah was dragged out of the temple, and the people of Judah executed her in a public display of justice. Her bloodline was extinguished, and her reign came to a violent and shameful end. The young king Joash was crowned as the rightful ruler of Judah, and his reign marked a return to the worship of Yahweh and the restoration of the Davidic line. Athaliah's death symbolized the destruction of a ruthless dynasty and the fulfillment of God's promise to preserve the line of David. While she sought to destroy the royal family and seize the throne for herself, she ultimately faced the consequences of her bloody and immoral actions. Athaliah's story is a stark reminder of the dangers of power unchecked by justice and morality. Her reign stands as a warning against the lengths to which some will go to seize control, and the eventual downfall that awaits those who forsake righteousness. Herodias. Herodias is one of the most notorious figures in the New Testament, known not only for her manipulation and cunning but also for her role in the brutal beheading of John the Baptist. A woman who was unafraid to use any means necessary to secure her position, Herodias' story is one of ambition, bitterness, and ruthless pursuit of revenge. Herodias was the daughter of Aristobulus, the son of Herod the Great, which made her a member of the powerful Herodian dynasty. She was initially married to her uncle, Herod Philip I, with whom she had a daughter named Salome. However, Herodias' ambitions went far beyond her marriage. She became infatuated with another Herod, her husband's brother, Herod Antipas, the ruler of Galilee and Perea. Herod Antipas, like his father, was a ruthless ruler, but he was also easily influenced by his desires, which made him a prime target for Herodias' manipulative schemes. Herodias' marriage to Herod Philip was not one of love but convenience, and her attraction to Herod Antipas became an obsession. She convinced Antipas to divorce his own wife, the daughter of the king of Nabatea, in order to marry her instead. This scandalous and immoral act, in which a man divorced his wife for another, caused a great stir in the region and drew the ire of many, including John the Baptist. John the Baptist, a bold and uncompromising prophet who preached about repentance and the coming kingdom of God, publicly denounced Herod Antipas's marriage to Herodias. He called it unlawful, as it violated the law of Moses, which prohibited a man from marrying his brother's wife. John's condemnation of their union infuriated Herodias, who had long harbored a deep resentment toward the prophet. Herod Antipas, though he was troubled by John's words, protected him in a sense, unwilling to kill a man who had a strong following and was seen as a righteous figure by the people. But Herodias's bitterness festered, and she became determined to silence John the Baptist once and for all. The opportunity to do so came during a grand feast held by Herod Antipas to celebrate his birthday. In the midst of the festivities, Salome, the young daughter of Herodias, performed a dance that so pleased Herod Antipas that he promised to give her anything she desired, up to half his kingdom. Herodias, ever the manipulator, seized this opportunity. She instructed her daughter to ask for the head of John the Baptist on a platter. Salome, likely reluctant but bound by her mother's command, made the request. Herod Antipas, though distressed and hesitant, could not go back on his word in front of his guests. Though he feared the consequences of such an act, he was trapped by his own promise and by Herodias's persistent demands. He reluctantly ordered the execution of John the Baptist. The soldiers, following the king's order, beheaded John and brought his head to Salome on a platter, as requested. This act of vengeance against the prophet who had dared to speak against Herodias's marriage was not only a personal victory for Herodias but also a demonstration of her ability to manipulate her daughter and her husband to achieve her goals. It was a chilling moment that revealed the depths of Herodias's ruthlessness and her willingness to sacrifice even her own daughter's innocence to fulfill her desires. Herodias's revenge was complete, but it came with consequences. While she succeeded in silencing John the Baptist, the act of murder only deepened her notoriety. Herod Antipas, though complicit in the crime, was haunted by the events, and the murder of John the Baptist did not go unpunished in the eyes of God. Herodias's role in the death of the prophet would forever stain her legacy, marking her as a woman driven by vengeance and a thirst for power, unafraid to destroy anyone who stood in her way. Herodias's story serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the destructive power of manipulation. Her actions led to the death of a righteous man, a prophet, and an innocent life lost for the sake of a cruel vendetta. She is one of the most dangerous and evil women in the Bible, not because of her power, but because of the evil that she was willing to unleash in her pursuit of it. The woman from Proverbs 7. The woman from Proverbs 7 is a cautionary figure, a symbolic representation of temptation, immorality, and the seductive allure of sin. While we don't know her name, her character is vivid and unforgettable. Found in the 7th chapter of the book of Proverbs, she is described as a woman who lies in wait, drawing men into her web with smooth words and irresistible charm, only to lead them to destruction. The setting of this tale is critical. The writer of Proverbs observes the dangerous allure of this woman, as a young man, unsuspecting and naive, wanders into her path. The passage portrays him as lacking wisdom, wandering aimlessly as he is lured into the seductress's embrace. The woman, described in vivid detail, is portrayed as outwardly enticing, with clothes that allure and a manner that deceives. She is described as bold, confident, and overt in her approach, traits that make her a powerful figure of temptation. As the young man encounters her, she immediately begins to speak to him with flattering words. She promises pleasure, excitement, and forbidden joy. She is insistent, showing no respect for boundaries, and using her beauty to manipulate him into following her. "Come, let's enjoy the pleasures of sin," she urges, assuring him that there will be no consequences, and that everything is prepared for him. Her home is adorned and ready, her husband is away on a long trip, and there is no one to stop them. What makes her so dangerous is not just her beauty, but the way she uses her words to deceive and twist the truth. Her flattery is designed to break down any resistance, appealing to the young man's desires and weaknesses. She manipulates him with the promise of instant gratification, without showing him the devastating consequences that lie ahead. The ultimate tragedy of this story is not just the woman's seduction of the young man, but the eventual outcome. As she leads him astray, the writer of Proverbs warns that he is heading toward destruction. The young man, once innocent and naive, is now on a path that will lead to his ruin. The seductive woman's sweet promises mask the bitterness of the consequences that follow. The man, now caught in her trap, is like an ox led to the slaughter or a deer trapped in a snare, unaware of the fatal danger he is walking into. The end of the story serves as a stark warning. While the woman promises pleasure, the outcome is death. Her way leads to destruction, and her beauty and charm are empty, hiding the true consequences of sin. The wisdom found in Proverbs urges men, and by extension, all people, to avoid the path of temptation, to be aware of the seductive forces in life that lure people away from righteousness, and to seek wisdom that leads to life rather than destruction. The woman from Proverbs 7 is not just a character in a story, she is a representation of the dangerous power of temptation and the devastating consequences of yielding to it. Her story serves as a timeless warning to all who would allow themselves to be seduced by fleeting pleasures, a reminder that the way of wisdom is the only true path to safety.